that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex. I can't vote for you if you can't make a decision.
Thank you so much, Senator Paul. Senator Levine, thank you for answering the question.
What you're about to see is one of the most important exchanges in recent Senate history. Senator Rand Paul just exposed something the mainstream media won't touch. During Dr. Rachel Levine's confirmation hearing for Assistant Secretary of Health, Paul asked a simple question that should have a simple answer. Should minors be allowed to make life-altering decisions about their bodies through hormone blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgical procedures? The response, or lack thereof, should alarm every parent in America. If you believe in protecting our children and preserving parental rights, hit that like button right now and subscribe because this channel stands for truth. Let's get into it.
Genital mutilation has been nearly universally condemned. Genital mutilation has been condemned by the WHO, the United Nations Children's Fund, the United Nations Population Fund. According to the WHO, genital mutilation is recognized internationally as a violation of human rights. Genital mutilation is considered particularly egregious because, as the WHO notes, it is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. Most genital mutilation is not typically performed by force, but as WHO notes that by social convention, social norm, the social pressure to conform, to do what others do and have been doing, as well as the need to be accepted socially and the fear of being rejected by the community. American culture is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development of their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Levine, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Levine, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and to talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER, but you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, do you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, you know, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex. I can't vote for you if you can't make a
Thank you
decision.
so much, Senator Paul. Senator Levine, thank you for answering the question. I will
Dr. Levine refused to answer, not once, not twice, but repeatedly. She hid behind phrases like complex and nuanced field and standards of care. But there's nothing complex about protecting children from irreversible decisions they cannot comprehend. Let me be crystal clear about what we're discussing here. We're talking about giving puberty blockers to children as young as 9 or 10. We're talking about prescribing testosterone to teenage girls that will permanently deepen their voices and grow facial hair. We're talking about surgical removal of healthy breasts and genitalia from minors. These aren't reversible choices. This is permanent. Senator Paul cited data showing that 80 to 95% of children with gender dysphoria naturally resolve these feelings by late adolescence if left alone. Think about that. The vast majority of confused kids would naturally work through these feelings, but instead, we're rushing them into medical interventions that will mark them for life. He brought up Kira Bell, a young woman who transitioned as a teenager and now deeply regrets it. She calls it a brash teenage decision that will negatively affect the rest of her life. How many more Kira Bells are we creating? How many children are being fast-tracked into a decision they'll spend decades regretting? Here's what really gets me. The same people who lost their minds over hydroxychloroquine being used off-label are completely silent about these hormone treatments being used off-label on children. There are no long-term studies. We have no idea what we're doing to these kids' bodies and minds 20, 30, 40 years down the road. And let's talk about parental rights. Dr. Levine has advocated for accelerating protocols for homeless street kids. So children with no stable home, no parental guidance, living in crisis, should be fast-tracked into permanent medical decisions. That's not compassion. That's exploitation of vulnerable children. The left claims to care about children, but where's the outrage when 3-year-olds are being seen at gender clinics? A 3-year-old can't decide what they want for breakfast, but we're entertaining conversations about changing their sex? This is insanity. Senator Paul made the exact right point. For most of medical history, we wouldn't even let a minor get stitches without parental consent. Now, we're supposed to accept that confused teenagers can consent to sterilization and permanent bodily mutilation? This isn't about being against any group of people. This is about protecting children from making irreversible decisions before their brains are fully developed. The frontal cortex, responsible for decision making and understanding consequences, doesn't fully mature until the mid-20s. But we're letting 14-year-olds decide to be sterilized? The fact that Dr. Levine couldn't give a straight answer tells you everything. She knows the answer the American people want to hear, but she couldn't say it because it would contradict the radical ideology she's been pushing. Every parent watching this needs to understand what's at stake. This isn't happening in some far-off place. This is American policy being shaped right now. These are your tax dollars funding these programs. This is your child's school potentially pushing this ideology without your knowledge or consent. Senator Paul stood firm. He put it on the record that the witness refused to answer, and he made it clear he would not vote to confirm someone who won't protect children from making life-destroying decisions. We need more senators with the backbone to ask these questions and demand answers. Our children are not guinea pigs for social experiments. They're not political pawns. They deserve protection, not exploitation. If you believe children should be protected, share this video. If you believe parents have rights, leave a comment. And if you want to see more truth that the media won't show you, subscribe and hit that notification bell. The fight for our children's future depends on people like you staying informed and engaged. God bless America.